This is the first time that an artist has been allowed to intervene in the PA system for the MTA, and I'm very honored to have been that artist. It is my hope that If You Hear Something, Free Something opens a door for this kind of sonic intervention as an art form to become more commonplace. I also think that this is an invitation for people who are not artists to understand that systems that we take for granted are the product of design, and that maybe it's an artist who thinks of or has the capacity to make an intervention, but actually that we all can intervene into our public systems to make them more how we want them to be, what we want them to look like, how we want them to sound, how we want them to function. And this could be a little invitation to do that.
If you hear something, free something.
My name is Chloë Bass, and I am the artist behind If You Hear Something, Free Something.
What we hear changes how we feel. How we feel changes what we do. And what we do changes the world around us, even if just for a moment.
If You Hear Something, Free Something is a sound intervention project that took place in the public address system of New York City's MTA. It's really a project that speaks quite directly to individual listeners, talking in quiet voices that are appropriate for like an individual set of ears. But it also has this operational scale at the metropolis level where we're reaching hundreds of thousands of people at once. And I really loved being able to work at both of these scales at the same time.
New York City is a really special place in that public art is truly everywhere. And the MTA also has this incredible collection that's 40 years long. And it's so ubiquitous, it's so much in our everyday lives that I feel like actually people stop noticing it. And they stop noticing how special it is that we get to live with so much art. And Creative Time has been able to work with the MTA a few times in the past to do things that are a little bit more experimental for them. Well, Chloë and I are in constant dialogue, and she presented an idea to me for a public art project where she was like, I want people to do something at the same time, and not because they're in fear, but because maybe the opposite. Maybe it's from a space of joy or a space of connection. And I was like very intrigued at what that could mean. And then as we kept talking about it, she said she wants to take over the MTA PA system. And I was like, that's nuts. And also, we should try.
I've known Chloë for years and years, and kind of just got a cold call saying, hey, I have this crazy idea. We might get the opportunity to make some sound through the MTA subway system. If that could happen, would you be on board? And like, who would say no? The way that I really want to say it is like we got to take over the New York City subway system and orient people towards one another.
It's Morning Edition on WNYC. I'm Michael Hill. Subway announcements aren't always the easiest to hear, but if you're passing through the system this month, you might want to listen more closely.
If You Hear Something, Free Something is divided into 4 movements of text. Each movement contains 6 announcements, so it's 24 announcements in total, but broken down into chunks. And over the course of each of those movements, you're getting kind of a single emotional arc, starting, kind of moving through and concluding, but then also the movements are building on each other over time. The announcements were playing approximately every 15 minutes over a period of a little longer than a month, with each movement of the sound playing for about a week.
Just a little bit, can bring you home.
Awesome. Nice. Yes.
No, I appreciated that you gave us like a range of it because then I can just take a sampling and we put it under something and it's really nice.
Perfect.
Yeah. So the announcements for If You Hear Something, Free Something were recorded in a recording studio, right? So we could have a bit more directorial and audio control and also really work with people to get the kind of tone that they felt like was right for them. Because I was working with 4 professional voice actors and then 8 everyday New Yorkers, but asking them to be themselves. So I wasn't asking them to inhabit a role as they spoke my words. I was asking them to speak my words as they themselves would speak those words to somebody else in their life. Sometimes during the recording session, I would imagine that they were saying it to their daughter or to their friend or to their sister, just to shift their tone of voice to something that felt comfortable and even homey. And so we were recording both in English and also in Spanish, Mandarin, Bangla, Arabic, and Haitian Creole. And it was really interesting too, bringing in people who were speaking the words in translation because they all had really tender, intimate questions about how best to achieve my intentions in their native language, which surprised me every time. I learned more about the project actually through recording and talking about the translations than I did even when I was writing.
Este es un lugar donde una forma diferente de prestar atención puede convertirse en una recompensa o en una invitación. Aquí aprendemos juntos. Si oyes algo, libera algo.
Perfect.
Yeah, that was
Mi voz, porque de verdad
¿Lo
que
vamos a usar?
me da pánico cuando voy y quiero hacer algo para la gente y qué oportunidad bella.
Muy bonito.
De todo mi
De
corazón.
verdad,
Sí.
maravilloso.
Sing with us, sing for the
So one of
people,
the people that I
sing
worked
for the
most
band,
closely
sing
on this
for
project
the
with is
people.
Jeremy Toussaint Baptiste. Jeremy and I have been friends for a bit more than a decade. In this case, I had Jeremy as a voice actor performer, but also I commissioned him to make what we call the not ding ding, which is the alert sound that precedes each of the announcements for If You Hear Something, Free Something.
A big point of conversation with Chloe during the development of that tone was thinking about a sort of ground. And there's already so much happening underground at any station. There's the rhythm of the train wheels along the tracks. Again, there's the brakes screeching. There's the life of the people coming in and out. So how to bring in a sound that is additive to that without necessarily being something that hails or distracts. The sound I created was a hum. I eventually settled on a pitch and added some chimes and let it all crescendo and pop with a record crackle at the end.
This is a place where you can be less afraid of nostalgia. We remember together here. If you hear something, free something.
So If You Hear Something, Free Something played over the existing MTA speaker system, particularly in sort of like mezzanines and passageways where people are moving from space to space within a station. I think we came to a nice balance of putting it in spaces where people are spending some time, not necessarily because they're waiting, but because it actually takes a period of time to move down that hallway. So you're walking under a sound that is traveling with you in a certain capacity.
Hi, my name is Amy Pical. I'm one of the project managers at Creative Time. We're here today to join MTA Arts Design to experience and document the public art project by Chloë Bass. If you hear something, free something.
For some people, it feels like the greatest gift is a return to quiet. But for others among us, it's noise that calls us home.
If you hear something, free something.
Could I bother you for a second? I just wanted to ask you, did you hear that announcement over the loudspeakers?
It was a little bit like disarming to hear such a soft voice overhead when usually I'm like waiting for directions or cancellations or delayed train announcements.
I'm used to hearing advertisements or things not to do on the subway, nothing really that can be construed as positive in any way, so that was interesting and kind of off-putting in a good way.
I kept thinking of the language of public address. I almost didn't distinguish it from any other subway announcement, but then as I was listening to the content, the sort of poetic expression was something I really appreciated and made me sort of take a breath and take a look around.
I've been kind of rushing around today, and it at least gave me like a moment to like be like, okay, I'm part of a like school of fish who are swimming through the subway, or like, I don't know, I could kind of like just relax into things, and it was one less signal for my brain to make it feel anxious.
But like the phrase itself is kind of evokes fear in people. You know, see something, say something. It's like always be on guard, but this is much more like free. Yeah, which is a nice contrast to what we usually get auditory space down here.
The title of the project, If You Hear Something, Free Something, is a riff on the MTA's own slogan, If You See Something, Say Something, which of course is a security slogan that has been taken up all over the country. If You See Something, Say Something is a statement that went into effect after September 11th. So encouraging people to be more vigilant, more watchful, helping people to feel safe through public reportage. And I think that that sometimes has its intended effect and sometimes has a very different effect, which is that it's sort of asking us to become the police. If you see something, say something is basically saying we are responsible for reporting on one another when something appears to be amiss. And we don't do this out of an act of generosity or care, this person needs help. We do it to say there's a problem. And so this project is really suggesting when we say to free something, right? What I mean is that you're opening yourself up to other possibilities in public space through the sounds that I'm playing, to say you don't have to be the cop. You can be someone else with respect to the other people around you, and we can take care of ourselves in ways that we already know how to do, in ways that we do all the time, but that we don't need to be told to do from the top down, ways that really come from within us.
What I really loved about Chloe's project is that it's both really big and really subtle. That it's 4 boroughs wide, it's reached millions of people, it really intervened in this public infrastructure of thousands of MTA speakers across the system, and yet it kind of just came and went, and it kind of just subtly shifted the atmosphere of these spaces.
Shout out to MTA, we didn't take over, we worked with them and made an address together. Like when I go back to Richmond and I talk to people who don't have a relationship to New York City, I can say that I worked on this project with a dear friend and we got to play sounds and speak through the MTA subway system, and that hasn't been done by artists before.
Going into this project, I could not anticipate, and I think in a way, maybe in a good way, did not understand how massive my ask was. And I think that is one of the things that enables artists to do what we do. It's a little bit childish and a little bit self-centered, but oftentimes it gets us to these places of real impossibility or gives us the permission to dream. I thought of this in a purely simple way. I want to make the subway speak to us in the voices of our neighbors. I want to make it hum, and I want to make it sing. And that is a sentence that's easy to describe, but very difficult to achieve. And without, the huge support of Creative Time, this project absolutely would have been impossible.
Remember,
almost nothing is forever.
Almost nothing is forever.
Not this feeling.
Not this feeling.
Not this month.
Not this month.
Not opportunities or limitations.
Not opportunities or limitations.
Maybe only the ways we hold ourselves and work together.
Maybe only the ways we hold ourselves and work together.
We call it creating the world.
If you hear something, free something.
That was a live performance by artist Chloë Bass. Starting today, Chloë Bass debuts If You Hear Something, Free Something, a public art commission presented by Creative Time, New York City's vanguard public art organization since 1974. and MTA Arts and Design. Thank you.